Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at the moment. We're just trying to get an understanding of where we're at. I've since pulled back. I just said enough is enough. I reprogrammed the repeater, reached out to the owner and said, look, we're just going to put it back for right now. I talked to Ed and Bob. I said, I need to just clear my mind of this for the moment, work with the developers, get my feet back underneath me, or the people who the powers that be are more than welcome to pick it up. But
yes,
if I'm going to do it, I gotta re-get my bearings between Jim and I, and we'll get it. It's just we just need more facts.
Yeah, you and Jim are probably way ahead of anybody else as far as working on it. And I've been in situations like that. And yeah, it helps if you take a vacation and come back to it later when you feel more.
It was just hard because it seemed like that was bleeding into every other project right now. And other projects were tanking because of it. And I'm like, so since I put it back, I've just taken a deep breath. We've made some good headway. We're building some momentum back up. Like I said, I'm going to talk to the developers with ARCOM and the gentleman with IRLP. We'll just say, look, let's get real specific about this. How is this really supposed to work? And then just because I can understand that it is simple, but I think like Steve brought up very, very early on in the proposal of this project is there was nothing about that Yaesu that was ever supposed to work with that IRLP node in an easy fashion. The extra components that are involved just add in weird complexity.
Yeah, I'm thinking somebody else has got the same problem.
They do.
They've got an easy menu thing someplace where you can just follow the dot things.
Yeah, you just have to. So I've joined the ARCOM groups.io and the IRLP node, the setup, the one we have, or the one that Mount Baker has, groups.io. And those guys are both very active. There's lots of crosstalk communication going on. It's just a matter of, hey, I've got a question, and hearing 10 replies going, you dummy, why would you have a question? So once you kind of get through that, you can kind of get in with somebody that's willing to, work with you a little bit. And then it becomes easy after that. I don't have a doubt that we can get this taken care of.
Yeah, take a break for a little while and get your shit together, maybe.
Well, I'd like to kind of take this pause to recap. Hamwan is working well. That part went well in the beginning. Arden, we've been continually tuning on the node. So the connection or connectivity is getting a little bit better and better. I did a site visit up by Toad Lake and shot another node back at it just to kind of gauge its effectiveness. And I think from that side up on the mountainside up by Toad Lake, I had a probably 28 dB signal to noise ratio. We need 8 to make an IP phone call, and we need about 13 to run that IP camera that's streaming right now. Anything above that, we're high-fiving. So to get a 28 dB signal is good. The node is working well. It's just the two sites we're trying to rely on for it to connect to have very unique complexities. One's shooting over the top of trees, and the other one is shooting to another site that we need to make an adjustment. So we just haven't made that adjustment yet. So King will be an anchor site. On the Arden side, it's just we got to crawl before we walk. But in the meantime, it's working a little bit, and so we'll get to reap a few benefits of that.
Well, it'd be nice if anybody else has anything that can, anybody got any knowledge about this ARCOM repeater controller.
The ARCOM, I think, really, based on working with the SCOMs, with the WECG group, and what I've learned about those and what I've seen of the ARCOM, the ARCOM is a little bit more user-friendly. I don't think that's where our problem really lies. It's the complexity with the DR1X and the ADR conversion box for the IRLP and then the IRLP itself. So they said, oh, it's just this really simple wire, and then later on I find out it's 100% custom. I go to the pinout documentation. Jim and I both found 3 different versions of the pinout documentation. It's just, that's where the craziness begins.
Yeah.
So my next goal is to work with you, get the rack. I already mentioned this to David. We're going to grab that rack you have. We're going to take it to the site, get everything cleaned up inside the building so it gets a little bit more of a professional look. And then by that time, we'll have heard back with the kind of R&D or with the communication with the manufacturers and get that aired out. And that should kind of work out good timing-wise.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
In the meantime, the camera is working. We have a streaming protocol that we're using. So if we see something that's interesting and fun, I build a link and put it up on a live stream and advertise it out for people to see.
Cool.
Okay.
Well, I guess that's all we got.
All right. Harvey Road.
Bud, you're
I guess,
the.
Bud,
you're
were
the-
you gonna?
Oh,
you're the
okay,
ring-
yeah,
you're the ringleader of that one.
Bob's not here. Basically, what's going on is Blaine ACS is planning on putting a dish, a Hamwan dish on the water tank at Harvey Road. And we have acquired most of the material. We've got the dish, and Andy says he's programmed and ready to go. I've got some other bits and pieces here on my bench. The switch for all the internet connections, and the surge protector for all those internet connections. There's talk. We'll see what Blaine comes up with. I believe it's tomorrow. The Blaine ACS has their Zoom meeting, and we'll discuss. There's a little bit of talk about whether or not we should add a camera or 2 cameras to the location. One of the things about that is that we're dealing with a city or town, and when they're saying you want to do what to us, we're looking for things that we could sweeten the deal. And so we're one of those things that we can sweeten the deal with is, and oh, by the way, you'll have surveillance. We'll have some eyes on the site. There's a container up there that has all the repeaters and radio equipment in it, and we could put a camera inside that container that would be activated as soon as somebody opened the door. So it's just crossing T's and dotting I's, but we've got the equipment and we're excited and ready to go. It's been great working with Andy, and the Blaine ACS team is pretty excited about this. So we will. This is all stuff that could happen within the next week or 2, so that'll be cool.
Yeah, so we're going to do that site, as I said, tomorrow, but that'll be Thursday. Bob and I are going to go up there. So we're going to go, we'll take the dish that got newly configured yesterday, and we'll take it up with us, and we'll see what type of signal we can get.
That site will have Arden as well.
Nobody has kind of brought that up, so I was going to have that conversation with Bob. I don't know if Blaine ACS wants it.
I don't think anybody is opposed to the idea. I'm more concerned about, are we going to find anybody that can actually benefit from it? And maybe Art right here is a likely candidate. We'll see. We have enough equipment, I think, Art, to test it. So, you know, it's not a huge expense, and it's not a big deal to add it at any time.
No, it's so that's one of the things is I was just going to talk to Bob about is just ask him if he felt there was any need for that, as my wife makes hand sock puppet. But and there was some talk about, you know, I don't know. Like I said, you guys have known more about it, but there was some mention of maybe shooting a signal down to the down into Blaine. I mean, we'll probably, all that's probably yet to be determined.
The most ideal thing and if we could pull it off, but I think that we're probably looking at a 45% chance of it being successful, would be able to run a link, an Arden link, from the Harvey Road water tank to the Harvey Road Fire Station hose tower. The Blaine ACS's home, its official QTH, is at the Harvey Road Fire Hall, and internet there is just so spotty. It's like third world countries have better internet than some of the places in our county, and so if we could do that, we would be doing it in a heartbeat. But there's a lot of trees around that fire station, and I'm not sure that the hose tower, the drying tower, is tall enough to even clear those trees. But we don't know until we get up there and have a look see. And Bob's not here. We could ask him if he's been on top of the hose tower and could he see the water tank.
Well, we'll take up the whirlybird tomorrow, so we'll know what we can see from the level we have access to. And then if we had to try to gain access, we'll get an understanding of how much further we would have to go. So we'll be able to do a good job of mapping it out.
Yeah, it's all fun, and we're going to do what we can. But as soon as we get a taker, and we've got some new hams that have popped in here on the list. I see Jamie down here. He's a neighbor of mine down Birch Bay. There's others that, if we can get them interested, and we can build this mesh network if we just find one person that sees another, one or two, and you start building it.
Quick question. How tall is that water tower?
And I don't know. And Bob's not
80
here.
feet, 90?
I would take a wild guess based on looking at that picture. I would say, between 60 to 80. And
Yeah, I think it's
Google
going to
Earth.
be, it may be more than 80.
Okay, I'll put 80 in here.
Yeah, they got antennas up there. I think the fire department has antennas on that tank and stuff. So it's and we've got a Harvey Road VHF repeater up there as well. Our primary goal is to get a secondary. I laugh when I say secondary because of what they've got right now, but a secondary link for the RMS gateway. And I think that we're going to find out that the HamWAN link, which is almost a certainty, is going to be way better than they call it POGO or some. What they have is very marginal and erratic. And we want a working RMS gateway for the north end of Whatcom County, and I think we can do it with this, dish.
Talking to Kevin, his dish that's actually a model down from the one that Blaine ACS purchased will outperform Pogo Zone. I took the dish last night just out to a particular site out on Double Ditch Road to get a signal and download the last of the the SSH keys, and I got I think I was getting 5.5 megabit, so it's so far everything's looking good. So
Right. Pogo Zone sets a very, very low bar. It isn't going to be difficult to outperform Pogo Zone.
I think it also, it depends on what you're trying to do. So if the idea is it's an uplink for DMR, it's not very bandwidth hungry, so you got a lot of opportunity.
Real quickly, since we're on this topic, I just posted a link to that Hey What's That website, and I'll just do a quick screen share. So I was showing this before the meeting got started, but I have that's the water tower right there, and all this red is what you supposedly can see from on top.
Oh, wow.
And
Can you find the Harvey Road fire station?
Well, one second here.
But we still have all the issues of the trees.
Yeah, but this is, not taking into account any trees. But I am right over here, and anyone can do this with that link. But there's where that tower is that I put 80 feet in there. and it looks like I have clear line of sight.
We'll send you the invoice.
But yeah, I mean, you can go, and up here is the panoramic view. I think this is a full 360 from one side to the other. So there's north, south, and north again. But that's what the view would kind of look like up there. So, but yeah.
If I get approval from Blaine, I'll post the video of the flight on the same YouTube page that where the live stream link is in the chat right now. So that should probably be up by this weekend if anybody wants to check it out.
You're over here, aren't you, bud?
Yeah,
Yeah. You're kind of in the dead zone.
right, not far from where it says Birch Bay Cottages.
Up this way?
Yeah, right, that's Shintaffer. I'm just a little bit east of Shintaffer, about 8 houses.
We have another site that's going to light Bud up good.
Yeah, but I have a great shot at Lookout. So the problem is that I'm 12 feet above sea level, and right behind my house is a real high hill that my neighbor's on. So unless I was to put an antenna on his house, I got to go south.
And that's kind of the same that where I'm at. I'm, maybe a dozen plus feet above sea level, and I got a ton of trees kind of to the east and south of me, a little bit to the north as well.
Yeah.
While we're
I got this grove right here.
While we're chatting, Art, you should do a new RF link from the old Air Force Base radar tower and mark it at 100 feet, and then we can come back to this. I'll show you some cool stuff.
Okay.
You know where the old radar base is?
No.
Do a Google search of it, and you'll be able to pull it up. It's the old Whatcom County radar station.
Is
that
it
the one
on Geneva Road? Is that it? Is it? What do we remember about the road?
It'd take me a minute to find it again, but it's
Yeah.
north of the refinery. It's right there, just kind of near the center of your screen right now. It's right in there somewhere. You zoom in. It's the old. There's a camp.
Let's see.
There's a tower there, but the aerial view is going to only show it as a small. It's a concrete tower.
Well, that's why I said find it off share, and we can come back to it.
Yeah, you're going to be all over the map trying to find it here. We got to move on.
One second here. Let me. Oh, there's the. Stop.
I apologize, Steve. I know we don't want to get the meeting done at 9:30.
Okay.
I hope we're done by 9:30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to know what Andy's drinking.
Hey, thank you, by the way. This is amazing. Number 2.
Okay.
Really good.
You've got cider? I don't have any more cider.
He never gave me any.
But not yet. I just need to get in here first.
Okay. What? Anybody else?
I
Nobody's.
was just thinking if we ever get that IRLP, then Jim or XQ3PC would be able to talk to him on the radio down in Chile.
That'd be
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool.
Well, we could do that with Arden, maybe. Who knows? You got any Arden down there, Jim?
Not that I know of.
Do they have IRLP down there?
I don't think so either. Well, they got everything, but I
How
haven't
about
heard of it.
DMR and D-Star?
Yeah, they've got all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The biggest one here is the Motorola one.
Oh,
Motorola.
a
What-
P
what's
something.
What would
Yeah.
be a Motorola?
P25, is that what it is?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of.
Okay. Well, let's see. Bud, did you want to talk about the balloons? Are you ready to, or?
No, I have to change all my screens to talk about the
Oh.
balloons.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we're going to talk about networking, and you're going to help me get it
Right.
right.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that then.
Okay. So if I push all the right buttons, let's see if we can make this work. Steve has put together how to do it on his GitHub page on integrating Arden and HamWAN and your home network all together so that they play nice together and you can do really cool things from any device in your house. And I said, I think I'll try to do that. And I started following Steve's directions. He's got some really good directions. You'll find them here on this website at his GitHub, and I've got to get my mouse to work. And it's on the wrong screen. I'll put it over here. So step-by-step instructions, really, really well laid out, how to do everything. And I became like a guinea pig and started going through these things. And most of it worked really, really well. And occasionally we ran into a bump in the road, and Steve was really quick to whittle it down, and we've got it up and running. And here's the magic box. Oh, I should explain. I set up a light on a tripod to take this picture, and then I couldn't get the reflection of the light out of this part of the image. So this fancy grid that you see right here is not in the box. It's over on a tripod. This is the same box that Andy has been using for the nodes and the things that he's been setting up around the county. It's a really nice box. I got it on eBay. It was $60 some. It's a 19-inch rack, and it's really slick. So in order to make all this work, I ordered 2 of these shelves that go in a 19-inch rack. They're only 8 inches deep, but it's perfect. It works really well for what I'm doing. They were about $16, $17 a piece. And then I also ordered this power strip, which is also a surge protector, and it fastens itself to a 19-inch rack, and it's like $30, and it's a dream. It's just a dream come true in terms of what I'm able to do with it. If we look at the end of the rack, I've got the end panel removed here. You can see these 2 8-inch shelves right here. They're all set up, and both of them are full. They're loaded with all these little boxes that used to live behind my monitors with wires going everywhere and wall warts going everywhere, and it was basically a nightmare. The power strip isn't very deep. It's this thing right here, and it's configurable. You can make it be any angle you want, upside down, right side up. Do many things with it. We'll talk about this a little bit later. This is actually Raspberry Pi running an Apache server, and it's just sitting on the base of the rack. What makes all this work is this Edge Router X. It's a really smart router, and Steve has put instructions in there that show you how to go in and configure all of these ports. There's 5 of them here. They're labeled ETH0 through ETH4, and we plug a different part of my network into each one of those things. And then they talk together, and they have rules and stuff that they follow, and we see, what it is they're supposed to go, what they're doing. Let me show you.
I love that router. Let me chime in. I love that router. I've been using one of those for years. I love
it's
that.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
So basically, here's what I'm doing. We got the Edge router right here, and it's all configured to do the DHCP stuff. It's got policies and rules written in there, and it's got these masquerade NATs in there. So just a rough overview, we've got Comcast internet comes through my cable modem into ETH0, and the edge router takes over and dictates what it can do. I also have an Arden router, which is on the Arden network, and it comes in. The wide area network comes into ETH1, and it also has a domain name server on it. It has a Wi-Fi, which I'm using with a Zoom spot for my DMR hotspot, and I'll show you more about that. And then the local area network part there, if you look at Steve's GitHub page, he has that connected right up to ETH2, but I couldn't do that. Instead, I put in another switch. This is an 8-port Netgear switch. I'll show you the picture later, that runs a laptop, an Arden telephone, a camera that's out on the road that I'll show you in a few minutes, and an Apache web server. I've got 2 more ports left over for future year use. The HamWAN network coming in from Lookout Mountain comes in through this dish, and it's bridged over to ETH4, and it plays nice with all of these guys. And then finally, this third ETH3 goes down to my home network, where I have a 8-port switch in here that runs stuff in my house. I have 2 Wi-Fis, one at each end of the house. I've got my own PC here. I'm running my Nexus board on there, but pretty much the only thing I take off of it is time. And it's also, it's there for when I want to update software with Steve's tools. We have been Roku fans for years, and I took our old Roku when we upgraded to the new one, and I stuck it in here, and these are all going into an HDMI switch so that I can watch shows or something right here in my ham shack if I want to. This switch is bridged to, there's a hole in the wall that goes through my ham shack into my wife's office. And I figured this out. This was really cool. Instead of running wires to everything at the other end of the house, I ran one to another. This is a 5-port Netgear switch, and that my wife's PC is hooked up to that. Our network printer is hooked up to that, and then I punched another wire through a wall that goes from her office to our living room, where our main TV has its Roku. That we don't have cable television, we only use Roku, and they're all tied together, and there's some room for something to add if we need it. So that's pretty much, what we're doing with all of this stuff, and it's all being managed with this edge router. The software for this thing is really, really cool. But Steve has done a fabulous job of writing these instructions, and it's easier to follow instructions when they're in a command line window, because there's no question about where you should click or what you should do. So following his instructions, I have configured this box to do everything that it's supposed to do, and Steve, it's working great. So this is the inside of the cabinet here. Up here you'll see there's the edge router. That's it right there. I have I've made up all these cables, and I did 2 things. I got a bunch of these little end caps, and they're all different colors. So for example, I have 2 sections of red cable here. I just cut it in half. And so this one has a blue cap on it, and it goes over to the other end there, which also has a blue cap on it. And this one has a white cap on it, and it goes over here to the other one that has the red and white. So they're all discernible. You know which cable is, what end is going to what other end. But I also made these flags. I used my label maker, and so I would print out what I wanted it to be. I found out I couldn't put them on the cable. They would just unbend themselves and fall off. So I print the tag twice, and then I cut it. And then I crease it to find out where the middle is, and then I peel the sticky off, the backing off, and stick it together and make a flag. So almost every one of these cables is labeled. I've got one here to go back and label, but it's a unique cable. I'll explain that later. So we've got the cable modem here.
Bud.
Yeah.
How much did you cuss and swear when you found out that red cap was below the tag on that purple wire in the bottom left?
I just let it go. Yeah, that one right there. Yeah, it was like, oh geez, and you could see where I bunged it up, trying to see if I could get it over it. And maybe one of these days I'll get in there. That's the one that goes to my wife's office.
You'll be the only one that ever knows.
Yeah. So anyway, this is ETH0 here, which is going straight over to the cable modem, which is back here. This one right here is going to the Arden wide area network port there. The second one over here would technically be going to the local area port on the Arden, but I've got this ribbon cable comes with the Arden with the GL750 box. It just goes from here over to there, and then that red cable plugs into. So I'm using this switch. It's an 8-port switch, and I've filled up 6 of them to get there. So the Arden is on those two. This one right here is going down. See, it's yellow and green, goes to yellow and green here. That plugs everything into the home network. And then this one over here, the label's wrapped around. You can't see what's going on. It goes all the way out to the ham WAN dish. Right there. Now, this is a long run. Andy helped me with this. I had a piece of conduit that went from my garage to the crawl space under my house. What did we put, 150 feet of cable in there, Andy?
Yeah, it probably was a decent run.
So we did something really smart. Okay, when we set this up and we're going to fish this cable from my garage, which is out by the road, to my ham shack, I said, Andy, if we're going to do this, let's run 2 of them. This was before I even knew Steve was coming up with this plan. Okay, boy, do we use them both. Yeah, so that goes back there to that location. So this is another shot of that. This one down here is the this is the home network right here. Yeah, because this goes off to my wife. That's the one that Andy spotted. Thank you, Andy, for spotting that. And it goes there. Just another view of the same thing. So here's the Arden router, and here's the Arden switch. Now, these guys take off and run. I'm running a laptop that's on the Arden network right there. Right here, I'm connected to our Arden phone. Right here, these are cool voice over IP phones. We talk to people all over the country on this. In fact, did you ever figure out, Andy, can I call anywhere in North America on this or just the United States?
You know, and I need to follow up with that, and I'm going to add that to one of my questions. I need to reach out to the VoIP provider. I figured out why the VoIP line went down. They moved the server. I remember getting an email a long time ago and I didn't address it, and so I just got to figure that out. And yes, they have a nationwide plan, so that is an opportunity.
Well, we have a lot of fun with these phones. I just punch in fact, Andy, why don't you punch in 206 and we'll let them listen to it ring. This is not live video, so you won't see anything happen, but there's Andy. Can we create feedback, Andy?
Yeah, I think it's there. Yep.
Okay. So, yeah, he just called me. That was 3 digits. We call all the guys on Arden this way. That's pretty cool. What else have we got in here? So we got the phone. This one that says Garage 2 on it is one of the 2 lines that we ran out there. There's another label flag underneath here that you can't read that says camera. And it runs to a camera. And if I punch in the right stuff, you are looking at a live shot of that camera. That's what's going on outside my front yard right now. And I can turn the camera and we can see what's happening out there in the world. Sometimes it gets interesting. And that's running 24/7. Looks like we got people in the water.
Tide's in.
The tide is definitely in. Look at that. Okay. Don't you want to go swimming? That is really warm water, you guys. Really warm water. So you can see around the bay. And if you're on Arden, you can drive this camera. So anyway, it's a lot of fun. We'll put it back. There's a bunch of presets and you can have fun with it. So that's what that guy's doing. This one right here, you can't read the tag. This is an Apache server. It's running web pages. I gotta think about what is my next video. Let's just see what it is. That's the phone. Oh, there it is. That's the Apache server right there. And this is a Raspberry Pi with a draws board on top of it. And the only reason the draws board is on top of it is because I needed a power supply and I'm able to plug 12 volts in here.
Don't let them hear that. That's the only reason you use it.
Well, I had a lot of, well, I have them and it was there and it was convenient and it meant I didn't have to do all this other stuff, but it also means that I can run it on my emergency 12 volt power. So hang on a second while I
Is that the unit that while you're coughing, is that the unit that hosts the drop anchor game?
We're getting there.
Nice.
We are getting to that. Yes, indeed. So let's see. One of the other things that the Arden router does is I turned the Wi-Fi on. That caused a lot of grief because I didn't give myself enough IP, a range of IP addresses to handle what happened when I turned the Wi-Fi on. And all of a sudden I was exceeding the limits that we had programmed into the Arden router. And Steve and I spent 2 hours yesterday sorting that out, and we got it all solved and figured out. We learned a lot. So the next guy is going to have the advantage of our misfortunes. But this is a Zoom spot, DMR hotspot. There's my DMR radio right there. I talk to my buddy Dave, WD0HHU, down near Dallas, Texas on this all the time. I leave it on 24/7 so he can pick it up in Texas and call me, and I will hear it, and it's going through the Arden network. This is my Nexus DRX, and we'll talk about it again in a little bit, and we'll talk about this guy over here in a little bit as well. But
that's a nice DMR talk group you got going there.
Yeah, it works. So this is a shot that I went out this afternoon. We had a nice sunny day. My flowers are in bloom. You can see the Hamwan dish right there, and you can see the camera is located right here, ready to go. I think I have a close-up shot on the camera, and that's what we call pan, tilt, zoom. You can swing it around, point it, zoom in 20 times, and that's the same camera, isn't it, that you put on King Mountain?
Yeah, and we thought the one at King broke, so we bought a third. So we have a bunch of those now.
Yeah, they're cool cameras, and they have some issues. You pretty much have to use a Windows machine to drive the camera. If you want to see what's going on, we can make that happen on any platform that you use. But if you want to get in and swing it around and drive it and peek into canoes and stuff like that, you'll have to have a Windows machine. So this is the front end of my Arden node right here, and I do believe I can bring up a live version of it. We'll go back to the camera and just click this tab here. So when you go into Arden, you have neighbors, and then your neighbors have neighbors. So what you see right in this list right here are my neighbors. And we're doing something interesting thing here. My Arden is running through the HamWAN dish, but not everybody is using HamWAN. Not everybody has it. So you can put stuff on the internet as well. And so to get into the rest of the mesh, I gotta pause a second here.
I'm going to have to pay Bud for this sales endeavor. This is incredible.
To get in there, we have built a tunnel to the SAR building at W7ECG. And so my Arden node goes through the HamWAN and then the interwebs and ends up at the SAR building. Well, we've gone in and built some more tunnels from me. And so here's Keith, KF7DRV. He's tunneled into me so he can get in back through HamWAN and get into the rest of the network. Here's Peter. He's in our group somewhere listening. He's got a GL750, same as I do. He's in Briar. Peter can drive that camera. He does. Now this is where it gets fun. This is WD0HHU. This is our buddy Dave. We call him Tex because when we get on FSQ in the morning, there are so many Daves. We have to give some of them different names. So he's from Texas and he's moved back to Texas. He lives in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And we have a tunnel to him. Dave lives 1.5 miles from a dormitory, a 20-story dormitory on a Texas Women's University that's just down the road from him. On top of that dormitory is a slew of antennas, amateur radio repeaters and whatnot, and they have Arden nodes up there. So Dave right now is working on connecting, getting a connection going. He just moved into this house so that he will be able to link into the Dallas-Fort Worth Arden network. Dallas-Fort Worth has been running Arden way longer than we have, and they have an extensive network there. When we make that link, this list here of all these places we can go is going to explode. They know we're coming, and they're excited to have us join them.
I can make it explode right now if you want. I can give you the entire East Coast.
Yeah, you can do that. So Arden is a lot of fun. And Chris, who's listening here somewhere, he's our buddy. He is one of my neighbors here in Birch Bay, has moved down to Phoenix, Arizona. And we will be putting a tunnel into Chris soon, I hope.
I just traded an email or two. I don't see him in here right now, but since we've been on this meeting, he just got the firmware flashed and he's getting the little tidbits of the node configured, so he will be ready to follow up and get the tunnel activated.
Oh yeah, it's, Andy, we're going to have to do a Zoom session just on Arden one of these days. So these are all of these things. You can see all the services and everything that everybody has hooked up on their Arden node, and you can see that there's my router, the ERX. Here's my switch. There's my phone. But two of these devices are things you can click on. And I wanted to experiment with serving a web page, and so I added my Apache server there. And if you click on Drop Your Anchor, this is a game that I wrote in HTML5 several years ago. I beefed it up for Arden, and it has to do with understanding primary colors and secondary colors. It's called Drop Your Anchor, and these are buoys, and you click on one and it falls, and it cancels out the colors. And the object of the game is to remove all of these targets. So, and this is the lowest level. It's the training level.
Wait a second. I wasn't able to pass this one.
You wouldn't get past this one? Oh, come on. I got a high score of 1100. But anyway, if I drop orange on yellow, it goes through because yellow is part of the color orange. I can drop red on red and they disappear. Now, if I drop blue on green, the blues are subtracted but leaves a yellow. So I have to drop a yellow on a yellow. Now I could drop a green on a green. Now I could drop a red on the orange, and have a yellow, but I'm going to drop a purple on the orange. Now, the only thing that purple and orange have in common is red. So the reds are going to disappear and leave me with a blue and a yellow, which is the same as green. So they're both gone. And now I can win the game. That's how you win it, Andy.
Never done it.
Just like that. So let's go on here. There's the mesh again. Here's another shot of the box with the door closed. Now, I don't know if I explained this to you. My ham shack is kind of small. It's like 11 by 11. And to make it look bigger, I have a large mirror on one end of my ham shack. So it looks like I have two of these, but it's only one. That's a mirror right there. Okay? But it also means that because I have to sit with my back to the view of the water and stuff and the San Juan Islands, I can work at my desk and look out the window that's behind me. But there's the box. It's all fancy. I've got it at about eye level. And it's really convenient. When Steve and I were working yesterday, he kept telling me to power things down and power things up. And I was able to just read what it says here on the wall wart, pull it out, put it back in. It wasn't a tangle of wires behind my monitors, which has been the case for the last 8, 10, 12 years. This is the underside of my case. And I decided to, hey, this would be a good place to mount a speaker. So I mounted a speaker to the bottom of that case, and this speaker goes to my 220 radio. I monitor the Mount Constitution 220 repeater at 224.48 24/7, and that's the speaker that and typically that's the only place I go and speak with a voice on ham radio. Everything else is digital or something else. Again, you can see this is a mirror, so you can see the back of the speaker. You can see the back of the clock and the back of my computer. That speaker comes down to this board right here, which I had to build. There's an Atmega chip in there. And this little switch right here, I painted the button white so my wife could spot it. I call this an XYL switch. When my radio starts talking and she doesn't want to listen to it, she has a tendency to come into the room and start twisting knobs. She makes the sound go away. And then 2 days later, I'm going like, I haven't heard anything on the repeater in a long time. What's going on? And it's on a completely different frequency, or the volume's turned down, or, and I didn't know. So if she pushes that button, it mutes my speaker for 60 minutes and then turns it back on again. And she does that, Peter, every time you start talking, just so I want to let you know. But she especially does it if she hears me talking and I'm not home. That bugs her. And so again, here it's powered from the 5 volts that I took off of the DRX. It powers this whole circuit, and I've got a voltage regulator there. And I guess I wouldn't have needed the voltage regulator if I had taken it originally from there. I got it from a wall wart first time around. So that's that. Last night around 10:45, I came in. I just love looking at these lights, and they're blinking and they're doing all this cool stuff. And I even am starting to understand, thanks to Steve, I'm understanding what they do and how they work. It's really cool. So that's my network. Thanks for letting me share.
Hey, Bob, questions.
Sure.
What did you have to increase your Arden DHCP up to? 29 or 13?
Well, I looked at it and said, we're not going to do this twice. We went to 29.
Okay.
It doesn't cost anything, and I don't want to do it again.
Okay.
And Steve was I owe him so much. His wife came in after about 2 hours and said, how much longer are you going to be? But what we learned was you really got to get into the camera in order to change its IP. You can't do it through any of the normal ways. And because we had changed all the other IPs, we weren't able to get into the camera. But we found the path. We got it. As soon as we fixed it, we got the IP address right. At one time, and I don't understand this, Steve, at one point in time, it had 2 IP addresses.
Well, it didn't have 2 IP addresses really, but it had an IP address from the previous subnet, and we both thought that the camera was set up for DHCP, meaning it would get its IP address automatically, right? And so we kept clinging to that belief, and then we finally realized that it stubbornly refused to get a new IP address.
And I have figured out now, Steve, that really is my fault, because when I was configuring it originally, I thought if this IP address ever changes, I'm going to have to redo all the stuff on the Arden network. And so I unchecked the box that said to use the DCHP server. And so maybe I should not have done that. Or now that we have it fixed, should I go back and uncheck it?
Well, we did uncheck it.
Okay.
When we put it to the new, when we deployed the new subnet, we did check it. So it is using DHCP now, but we made a reservation for it in the Arden router, so it always gets the same IP address.
All right.
Okay,
Well, that's...
Bud, before you go, are you prepared to help me so I don't have to bug Steve, so I can go up to from 13 to...
I will... Okay. So did you set yours at 5 also?
No, mine's at 13 right now. I want to go up to 29. If you found
13 will probably be enough, don't you think, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bud could have gotten by with 13 with a couple left over, even with all this stuff that he's got in his network.
Galen, do you think you'll be turning the Wi-Fi on the Arden? I mean, you're not a DMR guy. I did that so that I want to run all my ham stuff through HamWAN, and I wanted to be able to use, you have to use Wi-Fi to get to your hotspot, the Zoom spot.
Yeah. You know, I mean, who knows what I'm going to do? You know, I keep following you guys. You know, eventually I come into compliance. I mean, you know, yes, I'm resisting DMR with everything I can, but sometimes it's hard.
Well, I want to say a couple things about Bud's presentation. First of all, excellent presentation, Bud. Very, very well done.
Thank you.
And I think that your idea of combining the cable color and the hood for the RJ45 plug, that is very clever for identifying individual cables. I'm going to keep that in mind and deploy that elsewhere.
Yeah, the cables might have the same color, but they won't have the same colored hoods.
Right, exactly. And lastly, while helping Bud during the deployment here, I introduced or added and changed many things in my procedure that it became obvious to me weren't obvious to him, and most likely wouldn't be obvious to other hams who are going through this process. So I did several rewrites and clarified certain things based on Bud's input. So, and he had some great ideas for the document. So that was I thank you very much for helping out with that, Bud.
It was a pleasure working with you, Galen. It did take days. It was this whole networking thing is several days of work, and one of the challenges is that I have other people who live with me and depend on my internet, and there are periods of time when I have to take everything down. And so I got to make sure that that's not during Wednesdays and Friday mornings Pilates, you know, and stuff like that. I had to keep the network running for my roommate.
Yes.
And we pulled that off. You know?
I will say though that the ERX configuration, the edge routers in general, Rochelle said that she's using one as well. And I know, let's see, we're using one at this R building, and I've been using them for years. Here I have 3 different models of the edge router that I use. They are fantastic, inexpensive routers that are extremely well supported. So I highly recommend them.
I believe it's over by them.
And I know that Gayland is deploying this now, and we ran into
Being a little shit tonight.
a big problem in Gayland's case. He doesn't have cable modem service. He has DSL service, which throws an added complication into the mix in that he has to use a protocol called PPPoE. It's point-to-point protocol over Ethernet, which is an authentication mechanism that authenticates his DSL modem to his service provider, which is Ziply. And we had all kinds of issues with how to make that work correctly. And he was dealing with the same thing that Bud was, in that his wife relied on internet connectivity. So there were only certain windows of time we had to work through. So based on Galen's experience with dealing with PPPoE, I added yet more instructions to the document for those individuals who have to work with that protocol at their QTH. So thank you, Galen, for your input on that part of it.
And I have to thank Andy and Kevin for coming over this Sunday to redo my HamWAN because there were some issues with the initial programming and setup. None of us could get into it to actually make the changes you wanted us to make for the subnetting on the HamWAN. I'm still not, I'm one of my questions, and I'll probably have to bug you later, is right now I can't figure out what my outside ham address is. So at some point I'm going to have to inquire so that I could do, because I'm at that stage of doing things where I'm trying to integrate HamWAN, and I'm trying to get my Arden network all set up per your instructions.
Yeah, one thing I recommend for those of you who have HamWAN and you want to make things reachable on your HamWAN network from the outside is to request from the HamWAN administrators a static lease, they call it. A static, in some circles it's called a DHCP reservation. And what that does is it guarantees that your HamWAN router will always get the same IP address assigned to it, you know, through power cycles or whatever, what have you. And they will also enter a DNS record for you. So it's reachable by name and you don't have to remember its IP address. And
Andy, can you do that for me?
Well, I'll send you the emails that I've used in the past with them on how to request it. And it's pretty straightforward. So yeah. And they're very quick. They're very quick to turn these things around. Usually, you know, in this, it's never taken more than a day, and it's usually within the hour they have these things built. So.
And for the record, we've got Kevin and I, and I'm going to fall on the sword on this one. We've gotten better with it when we do installs for other people for services that they purchase. We try to not lock them out of their own devices nearly as much. We're getting better at it.
So I would strongly recommend when these guys show up and everybody's doing stuff, somebody has a notebook and is writing things down.
Have a pen and paper, because
I just put this password on there. What password? Yeah. You know, because 2 days later somebody's gonna say, what was the password?
So the other part is is I ask the person, i.e. Galen, whoever, Bob for the Blaine site, is it okay if? And so what we do is we put in backup logins, so now we can help circumnavigate having to completely nuke the dish and start from scratch. So we are getting a little bit better. But to Bud's point, a notebook in the frenzy of the install is paramount.
Good. Okay. Bud, are you ready to talk about Pico balloons?
Yeah, it won't take long. I just wanted to kind of put a plug in, if I can share my screen again for these. What's up?
Real quick before you go on to that, I posted 2 links. They're snapped together strain relief boots for Cat 5 cables. So if you can get them in pretty much any color, but if you put the cable together and you're like, oh crud, I forgot the boot, these will just snap right over it and take the place of that.
Oh, great.
So when you have the problem of, oops, I put the label on the wrong spot, you just go and clamp it on where you want it. So
excellent. That's a great idea.
Yeah, that could be real handy. Yeah.
Yeah, I've used them a couple of times, and it's nice when you realize, you're running cable in the house and you realize that the color on the one end doesn't match the color on the other end.
Ooh. Yeah.
You just unsnap it and then snap the correct one in.
So okay, I just want to put a plug in. Peter and I and maybe some others are also members of the San Juan County Amateur Radio Society. And recently, they had a Zoom presentation from some hams. Peter, were they in Yakima, Eastern Washington? Is that where they were from? If you're near your mic.
Yakima and Spokane.
Yakima and Spokane. Anyway, these guys did such a great presentation. I checked to see if we could get them to do a presentation for the Mount Baker group. So on the second week in September, the Mount Baker Zoom meeting, I think either Ed will set it up or I'll set it up. These guys are going to come and talk to us, and you're going to want to see this. But I wanted to kind of give you guys a homework assignment to do a little bit of research, Google Pico balloons before the September meeting and see what you think about them. Briefly, in a nutshell, we're talking about party balloons with a radio transmitter attached to it. And this thing, they call it a Sky Tracker. It has solar panels, no batteries. It only works in daylight. And this little board right here, we can get these, we can build them ourselves, or we can get them already built from these guys. And they launch these things. And this radio, see this antenna, this is guitar string, steel guitar strings. That's what they're using for antennas. It's programmed with Atmega chips, so you can program it with like an Arduino. And it's not a receiver, it's just a transmitter, but it will transmit APRS. I think, yeah, there's a GPS chip right there. It'll transmit APRS, it'll transmit Whisper. I'm not sure what all, it's whatever you want to program it to do, I'm sure. And they launch them and off they go. It weighs about 6 grams. You partially fill the party balloon. This is a 3-foot party balloon with ordinary helium. And there's a trick to getting the right amount of helium in there. You want so many grams of lift, you create a weight of that amount. And you attach it to the balloon and then you add helium to it until it reaches neutral buoyancy, and you say, hey, there it is. Get rid of the extra weight, and then this thing is going to go off up in the air. How far do they go? Well, this balloon right here took off from, looks like around Georgia or so, went up the East Coast and then crossed the Atlantic. It went as far as Sweden, and you're able to track it. The magenta lines they have no contact with them. And when I was talking to the Embark board, I said this happened overnight, and I realized I was wrong. This happened over the Atlantic Ocean. There are no eye gates out there for it to send the APRS beacon back to people part of the world. So it may have taken a couple days to cross, but when it got over here, bingo, APRS found an eye gate, and their lost balloon suddenly reappeared on the map. And so this is some of the whisper data that they've collected from these guys. There's a lot going on. There's some videos and stuff. They sent one from California. This was interesting. It took off from California, went across, I think it went north and across Canada, and came to rest in Nova Scotia. And an amateur radio club in Nova Scotia said, we're going to go find it. And it was transmitting APRS. They homed in on it in Nova Scotia, found it in the woods, brought it back, and mailed it back to the hams in California. So the reason I'm bringing this up is I think our digital group should consider doing this. This is a project we could do and have some fun with. So that's it.
I agree. I think that would be a fantastic project for us to work on.
So be sure you join us for that meeting, second Tuesday in September.
Well, I wasn't sure if I figured.
All right. Anything else?
Well, if nobody else has anything, but I noticed that you had some extra ports on your home router and stuff there.
Yeah.
One thing I've done is TV antennas. You pick up a lot of TV reception, and then you can run it through what's called the HD home run through your router and have all your TV reception over your Wi-Fi.
So is this the HD TV that's coming off Mount Constitution and stuff?
No, this is just regular
Well, it's
antenna.
basically a network tuner. An HD home run is basically a network TV tuner. So you can TV and live TV anywhere you have your network. I have one that's got a cable card in it, and I get cable TV all over my network.
DVR built into it also.
Right.
Okay, so it's just sending TV around your network?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't have TV. We have Roku. Would it do that?
Yeah, but you can pick up the off the air. You could pick up the stuff.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
The
HD television. There's transmitters on Mount Constitution.
You can pick that stuff up.
And
no, you're up there in Birch Bay. You can get all kinds of Canadian stations, and with your southern exposure, you might be able to even get some of the Seattle stations even.
No, I've done it. I've hooked the antenna up to my flat screen to see what we could get, because you go into Best Buy and you take antennas off the shelf and take them home and try them out and see if they work, and if they don't, you give them back. And what I found was, they worked great. The image was way better than cable. But my choices were 3 shopping channels, Leave It to Beaver 24/7,
and the
60s channel.
Yeah, you'd have to buy a big old Aggie or something.
I think there was an NPR.
Yeah.
There's been rumors for years that and then a Spanish language channel. There's been rumors for years that Fox TV channel 13 would move to that site when we would then be able to get all the sports channels.
I can actually get channel 13.
You can.
Yeah. I can get it from my house. I've got outside TV antennas. The only thing I've run into was with Roku. My TV antenna thing, Roku blocks CTV because it thinks I'm illegally streaming Canadian station. I don't know why.
But can you use a different HDMI port and it
Yeah,
doesn't
why
know
is it
what you're
gotta
doing?
go through your Roku?
Yeah, I can get any other TV or whatever. It works, but just Roku is a weird fluke. You buy your TV, you got to say you're Canadian or
Oh, I have Roku in its own box.
yeah.
So it's not in my TV. My TV's too old for that.
Oh.
Yeah. But that's a good thing to know.
Yeah, that was kind of a stumper, scratching my head trying to figure out why that didn't work. But,
That's
yeah.
good info. Makes me think maybe I should try again. When I did it before, I just had these little butterfly antennas in the house. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, geez, well, Mount Constitution is right out the window. What do I need?
Yeah. Go to
But
Mount Constitution, there's 5 channels there, plus the Holy Rollers and all the jewelry channels and stuff like that.
yeah, that's right. The shopping channels.
Yeah,
That's what
shopping
I
channels.
was getting.
But now they've got a PBS station out there, and you can get the NHK Japanese news and stuff like that. I'm getting channel 13, and at nights I can get 7, 5, and Com TV.
So are you able to watch the football and stuff like that on 13?
Oh yeah,
Oh, wow. See, we don't get that on Roku. Yeah.
yeah.
We have to go to the bar if we watch football.
Get some outside antennas, and yeah, and it
Yeah,
works
put up a
pretty good.
real antenna.
Yeah.
Gotta go big.
There you go, a real antenna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I
Yeah,
lived on the
everybody-
north side of town, I could get 13 on a set of rabbit ears up on the hill when I was living up on the hill.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all into this ham radio, and we've got all these antenna towers and stuff.
Yeah,
Why not
think
put up a
about it,
TV
yeah.
antenna too?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Maybe I could use it as a 6-meter antenna also, same
There you go.
antenna.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Hearing none. Thanks for coming together tonight for the meeting, and we'll see you next month.
Okay, I was reading the chat window. I think I'm ready to pull the plug, guys.
Yeah, I checked out those things he's got on there.
Hey, Rochelle,
Ah.
when are you guys coming back for beer?
I don't know. Soon?
We got to
When do
get
you
out
want-
there to that beach cat.
We
Yeah,
were there.
right.
Yeah, we were there.
Yeah, we could do it again, you know.
And again, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let me see if, I don't know. Next time I get out your way, maybe next weekend.
Well,
Uh,
we'll see. It's crab season now, so
Ah.
that's going to mean it's going to be
Okay.
crowded. So, anyway. Okay, guys, I'm
Definitely
clicking
get
the
out there
button
again.
that says we're done.
Okay. See ya.
This will be recorded and on the cloud for future viewing, so I'll send a link to that.
Cool.